Hey guys, welcome to day 7. It's late in the day, but I was like, you know what? I gotta get my video done today. Today was a great day. I hung out with one of my friends, and today was really, I think, about checking out slot cars, doing some footage. So, yeah, we're gonna talk slot cars today. So, my journey in slot cars started when I was very young. My great-grandfather had collected a Scalextric track. Scalextric is one of the oldest slot car manufacturers, and they originate out of the UK. When I came to Canada, I brought that track with me. It was about a 20-meter track, but it ran on 220 volts. So I never really got to use it, and over time it just deteriorated, and then I finally used it as a terrain piece, and that was the end of that. I then bought an SCX track. SCX was a company that came out of Italy. At that time, they created pretty good track, but I used to use it in my hobby store when I owned one, and I used to use it on a day-to-day basis to allow people to race and get into the hobby. But unfortunately, there wasn't enough support for it, so that also fizzled and died. And about 8 years ago, my friends and I, we went to race go-karts, and in a small corner of that go-kart track, there was a slot car shop. And me being me and being really into slot cars, I didn't race go-karts that whole day, and I spent the whole day in the slot car shop, and I walked out with my first Carrera track, and a little bit more than just my first Carrera track. Today I'd say that I have probably about 100 meters of Carrera slot track, and my collection is very vast and pretty robust, and yeah, it's an amazing hobby, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. So Carrera comes in two different flavors. We race Carrera Digital. So there's Carrera Analog, or Evolution as they call it, and then there's Carrera Digital. Now Evolution is the analog system. It only allows you to race two cars on the same track. And that's okay, but because we were, I had 4 friends that were really into slot cars, and we wanted to race multiple, we went into the digital format. So the digital race system is pretty much based on the chipset that's in the car. And that chipset allows the car to be controlled by the controller. It allows every controller to control their car individually. Whereas in analog, the rails are controlled by the controller. So it's a little bit different, but what this allows us to do, the digital track allows us to race multiple cars, up to 6 on a 2-lane track. And on the track, there's these little sensors that we can trigger with our controllers to make them change lanes, or in certain instances to pit as well. So the system is a little bit more robust. It allows us to have fuel efficiencies. It allows us to control lane changes, and it also allows us to control the speed. So you can actually set your speed levels. You can select your fuel levels for every race. So it gets pretty technical. It gives us closer to a racing experience. So the lighter your cars are in terms of fuel, the faster they go, the more boost they have. So yeah, so this is a Carrera controller. This is the button that you use to switch lanes, and this is your trigger. Now this is a traditional controller. When you go to more of the championship series, you get a trigger controller, which I don't really have because it's a little bit harder to get those. When it comes to cars though, we race Carrera. So Carrera produces 2 different cars for this track, and they both can race on the same track that I have. One is a 1/24th scale car, which is like this Ferrari, and we race 1/32nd. So we can still race 1/24, but we race 1/32nd. The reason why is because I just find 1/32nd to be a lot more technical, and it's got more speed, and there's a lot more cars and variations into it. So and I really like the scale, so that's what we race. Now, common clubs, most clubs have different classes for their races. At our club, we don't. We're just getting into it, so we race a stock car, and we have certain mods that are allowed. So you can modify the car, and I think the most common modification, the most important modification would be tires. So when the cars come straight out of the box, they have rubber tires, and they're good, but they deteriorate really fast. And if you leave them for a while, like we did, they get hard like rubber pucks, and then the cars just spin on the track and they don't go anywhere. The better tires, and the tires that we use for our racing series, is polyurethane tires, and we buy this from a local manufacturer out in west coast of Canada. And but the tires themselves, when they come from the manufacturer, they're not ready right off the bat for the track. What we have to do is we have to fit them onto the cars. Then we use something called a tire truer, and we true up the tires by using sandpaper, sometimes blades, X-Acto blades, and we use felt to clean them off. And what that does is it allows the cars to get more grip on the track, and that means more speed, that means more control. The other thing that we can do to upgrade our cars is add more downforce. So a lot of racing cars or people that race will put magnets. So we'll add more magnets. Now the cars will automatically come with a magnet set inside, but if you want to put more downforce in the cars, we can add magnets. These are wafer magnets, and they just increase the downforce on the car, and it allows the car to stick on the track a lot harder, and it gives us more power. Now there's a double-sided coin to this. If you put too many magnets, your car slows down, obviously, because it needs more power for that motor to actually create drive in the car. So it's a fine balance, and that's one of the things that we can tweak. So first the tires, then the magnets, and then if you want to get crazy, you can upgrade your motors. We don't tend to do this on Carrera cars because Carrera motors are pretty fast right out of the box. You're going to see some track footage that I'm going to show you. Right now we are in race 3 of our series, and we just built a track. It's called Viper, and what you're seeing right now is the Viper track in its full glory. It's a very fast track. It's got a bank turn, it's got a straight, it's got the pit lane, and then it's got this very technical section that's in the air. It's got it's got 5 hard hairpin corners on the top of the track. So that is a very technical section. So having really fast motors doesn't really help you. You have to have a lot more car control. So we tend to race without upgraded motors, just basic stock cars as they come, and we normally change tires. And I put some magnets into cars just to give me more control. The inside of the stock car is very simple. If you look at a basic analog car, it looks something like this. It's got 2 brushes that connect via wire to the motor, right, and through a switch here. This switch just controls the car switch, but it goes straight into the motor, and the motor produces the drive. So there's the drive pinion, and then there's the gearing. So these are other points that you can change on the car. You can change the pinion, you can change the gearing. You have to have special tools for that. If you're going to change the motor, you have to learn how to solder, so that's something that you have to learn. And also there's these bushings here, these plastic bushings. Many people upgrade them to brass bushings so you can get a smoother run as well. The back of the tires of the drive and the front are normally loose and in the air, and when you see the track footage, you'll see that the car wobbles a bit because the drive in the back is creating that turbulence, and the front tends to vibrate a bit. But these still give grip. If you don't have good tires in the front, you're going off the track as well. So that's something to keep in mind. With the digital cars, so this is a rigged car that we have where we put a camera on, but it is a digital 1/24 scale car. And the good thing about this, most digital cars will have lights on them, and they will have a chip. So we go from the chip is what controls the braids. The braids come to the chip goes into the motor, and the chip is what controls the car. Every car that's digital has a sensor at the bottom, and this sensor, when you depress the lane change, will activate the sensor on the track here, and that will allow you to change lanes, right? So that's in a nutshell about the hobby. So how do we run our races? So like I said, there's 4 racers at the club right now, and the way we run it is we run 2 races. Each race is a series of 4 runs on the track. Each run is 30 laps. So we average out the 4 runs to determine who's won the races. So we give rankings for each one of the runs. We average it out to find out who ran the best race, and that becomes first, second, third, fourth position. First earns 5 points for a win. Second earns 3 points. Third earns 2 points, and fourth earns not 1 point. We also give a point for the fastest lap. So the person that completes the fastest lap out of the 4 runs in that race. So every track gets 2 races. Each race has 4 runs. So that means we run on the track 240 laps, right? The track that you're looking at is called the Viper track. This is track number 3. We averaged on our first race. We haven't run our second race series, but on our first race, the fastest lap was 7.0 seconds. But on average, we're running about 8 seconds. So that track is a 28-meter track. So we're running 28 meters in 7 to 8 seconds. That equates to around 400 kilometers an hour in a regular car, minus the weight. So just straight up conversion. So you can imagine how fast it is, and the footage that you're watching now is what you're seeing the cars at their speed on the track in first person view, which is courtesy of the camera car here. So it can get very intense, it can get very exciting. Cars break, spoilers break, things break, but all in all, it's just another fun hobby. It's a great way to spend a couple of hours with your friends and create some great memories and laughs. And yeah, if you're into racing and you can afford to get into the hobby, I think it's a great leaping point for anyone. And yeah, that's my take on stock cars, and I hope you enjoyed this. And till tomorrow, we'll see you then. Take care.